Hey guys, it's National Master Aaron Cooper here with another game review video. And this time I have a game that was given to me by one of my students. And my student was white. And the time control was, it was a standard time control. It was either 10-0 or 15-0, I believe. So let's check out the game. King's Gambit is whenever you push the F pawn and give it up. And the reason for that is to gain quick space in the center of the board, like so. So we are influencing some key squares in the black camp. Now G6 is a very strange move. I didn't see it in the opening database that I referenced. More common is G5 to try to hold on to the pawn. Bobby Fischer in the 60s, I believe, wrote an article calling this D6 and G5 the refutation of the King's Gambit. He was so furious that he lost the Spassky in this opening that he was determined to find a refutation. Now, I don't think it's quite a refutation, but it is another option for black. It's either D6 or G5 tend to be the more common replies here. Okay, so my student grabs space in the center and bishop H6 just to hold on to the pawn. It's a creative way to do it. Putting the bishop on the edge like that. And this is great. Bishop C4, develop our pieces. D6, black wants to do the same. Give their bishop a place to go to. And now E5. So this, I believe, is where the game turns in black's favor. And I think E5 is too soon. White should prefer either knight C3 or castling. So if we looked at castling, and let's say black played knight C6, we could have knight C3, and then we could have ideas of either queen E1, E5, or rook E1, E5. And the reason why we want to delay E5 is that we want to develop the rest of our pieces so that when we do push E5, it's much more effective. Our pieces are behind, ready to pounce. And ideally, we'd like to open up lines towards the king and queen. And it's only going to be as effective if, for example, the rook is on an open file. Okay, so let's see how the game went. E5, take, queen H4. This is a very common check in the King's Gambit. White is used to losing castling privileges. Now, the downside is that this rook will take some time to get into the game. He's kind of stuck right now. Bishop to E6, defending against a capture on F7. This is a good move. Queen to E2. The idea being that if bishop takes, queen takes, and then white has some good pressure here. Black develops a piece. And my student exchanges the bishop and throws in a check. Now, it turns out white's going to win a piece here. However, because of the king's safety, it's not going to be that much of a difference that white is going to gain material. Let's see how things progress. Knight C6, queen takes B7, so now the rook is attacked, and the knight here is attacked twice, and only has one defender. So something's got to give. Either the rook or the knight is going to be lost. Black makes a nice move, castles. That will defend the rook. Also lines up the rook with the opponent's king. Take. And then F3. You want to open up the lines whenever you're attacking, especially the rooks. Rooks like open files. So F3 makes perfect sense here. Now, what happens if white replies with G3? Well, there would follow queen H3, and if king G1, oops, that's checkmate. And alternatively, if king e1, there's queen g2, attacking the rook, threatening mate on e2. Only way that white can stop that, they can take the pawn here, check. And yes, it looks like they are protecting against the mate. So you would think white could be able to play rook f1 safely. Unfortunately, king and queen are lined up. That means we're all set for a pin, and we're going to pick up the queen there. Now, the other alternative that white could consider is taking the bishop. Unfortunately, that will lose to takes. If the king takes, queen g4, that's checkmate. Rook is covering all those squares. The king cannot go to h3, nowhere to run. So therefore, instead of taking the pawn, the king would have to come here. And after this exchange, black is up a rook for a knight. Both sides have one rook each, so the only difference between the two sides is that black has an extra rook. All right, so my student didn't do that. First, he took the pawn on e6, check. Blocks the check. And now took on h6. Now, there's a difference in this variation because after takes, queen g4 is not possible because of queen takes g4. So it looks like white is doing okay here. Don't be fooled, that king is not safe. Black does a nice job. And so now it's both sides have a rook. White has two pieces for rook. That should be fairly equal, right? Well, we got to look at the positional factors. King is not safe. There are pieces, black pieces hovering around it. And more importantly, white is not playing with these two pieces. It's almost as if you could take the rook and the knight here off the board. They're not participating. And that's going to make a big difference. Check. Grabs the bishop. Another check. And that's a nice, mature move by my student's opponent. Just gets out of the pin. Now, unfortunately, it's a little too late for white. He has developed the knight, but his king is just too weak, so black correctly does not exchange queens. Whenever you're attacking, most times you don't want to exchange queens. Queen is a very important attacking piece. Rook down, and the other rook came over, and my student resigned. So why did he resign? Well, the king is just too weak. If we consider a move like knight e4, black could play queen check, king goes over, and that's checkmate. So if we go back to the opening, I think things, like I said, really turned at this stage here. White has a really nice opening going at this point and just rushed the pawn move. So either knight c3 or get your king castled. That would have been the preferable option. And especially given how the game went, castling I think would have been a really nice option because the rook is no longer in the corner. It's developed. It's ready to either go on the F file or the E file. So there you have it. Another game review video, this time of one of my students' games. And listen, if you would like one of your games to be analyzed, I'm planning on doing more of these in the future, so leave a comment and we'll be able to set something up. So stay tuned for more upcoming videos, guys, and until next time, happy chessing.